we are, cause we are the ones been fighting for the right to vote. The right to vote. It's no place that seems safe. So they've been praying for the night to go.
What's going on, world? Welcome to Global State of Mind. This is your host, Garnet. Today we have a special guest along with JD, my host and cousin. We have Dr. Smith, aka my dad. We're gonna have a very good conversation today. We're gonna talk about some great topics. We're gonna expand upon stuff we've talked about before too. You know what I'm saying? But thank you very much again, you guys, for joining the community. Again, I want you guys to remember, if you ain't liked it, if you ain't shared it, if you ain't subscribed it, you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, man. And you're gonna miss out on some blessings because we got them coming and we trying to share them with you. JD, how you doing today?
Hey guy, what's up? Hope y'all having a nice day. First of all, I want to say sorry for the delay. I think we missed like a week, but as we left a notice on Facebook earlier saying, well, we actually did a recording, but it actually got banned by YouTube because of the content was under mandatory vaccination. But yeah, so sorry for that delay. We're back. We're back once more. And as my cousin just said, we're here with a special guest, a brilliant Black figure in our family.
Yes.
And so proud to have him here with us, Uncle P.
Yes.
How everything, Uncle P?
Good. I'm good.
No.
See, you guys are good.
Yes, Father. How you doing today?
I'm great.
Okay, so today we're actually going to get into a deep conversation about legacy and self-identity. Okay, and I believe that Uncle Patrick here, being the person who he is and what he represents in our family, he could give us some great insight on searching for self, and later on, of course, after finding oneself and one's purpose, the legacy that you try to leave back after you're gone. So
jump in, JD. Come on, yeah. Daddy, can you give us a rundown of your accolades, just so
yeah.
We can know who you are, what you're about, and
Oh, that one. Well, actually, there's not much. Actually, I am supposed to be modest. I don't know whatever that means. But I think the top of it all is that I have received the Prime Minister's Medal of Appreciation for service in education. I've been in education for the better part of 40.
Wow.
More than 40 years, actually.
Yes.
I started teaching at the age of 20, exactly on my birthday, and I still haven't left it. And now I'm 73, therefore it means that I would have been in the teaching
53 years in.
53 years.
That's crazy. And what subjects did you teach?
They span the whole thing of sociology, history, literature in English, and very importantly, well, economics. I have dabbled in anthropology and quite a few of those other things because I am so much interested in the whole history of man, the whole story of man.
Yes.
Who we are and where we are going as a people.
Uncle?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Just a question though, because you're getting somewhat in a very deep conversation. But I would like to know, coming up in Jamaica, I think it was in your era, it was like what, the 1970s? You were born around the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, right?
Late 40s.
Late 40s.
Daddy,
way off.
We were way off.
I thought it was around late 50s.
Actually, 2 years. Well, I was born in 1940s. I was born 1947. That's about 2 years after, or 3 years after the end of World War II.
Wow.
Was born in rural Jamaica.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Northern Manchester, one of the 14 parishes.
Yes.
Coming up in Jamaica as in that period, right? As a young Black intellectual, what was that? What was your process of searching for self-identity? What was that like? And how did you go about it?
Especially after growing up in the era of after World War II done it, and then Jamaica was still seeking independence at the time, and we were trying to create our dollar economy.
Political tensions and all of that.
Yeah, what was it like finding yourself in that era? Scat.
Okay, growing up in Well, growing up in rural Jamaica, you're surrounded by family. In fact, the whole village of Robbins Hall was family. It's like the old African adage, it takes a village
To raise a child.
So you were never really far from family because it's a very integrated rural society.
Yeah. Okay.
But the central part of my early life was church. I think I was more churched than a body. I would get up in the morning, it's a routine for our dad, right? Philip, great guy. We got up, we went to beach on a Sunday. And not necessarily beach, but we went to the seaside.
Yeah.
Because he believed that, of course, a sea bath is a tonic and makes you strong, right? And there were 4 of us boys then, right?
Yeah.
I being the eldest, followed by Earl, Orville, that's JD's dad, JD's
Uncle.
uncle, and also Phil. These were the first 4,
Yeah.
right?
Daddy,
yes,
I want to
sir.
tell you something real quick, you know. You know, so you tried to church me to death too when I was a kid.
I know.
The apple never fall far from the tree, huh?
Yeah, in church, JD the man sent me to Catholic church by myself, my youth, about 5 miles.
That's it. I mean, but
So why-
I think the routine was something else. I mean, get up in the morning, go to beach, then you get back home,
Yeah.
have breakfast. And our neighbor used to take us to Sunday school at a Church of God. That was a Church of God.
Yeah.
Okay, growing up under that structure,
Yeah.
I
Clergy.
know you were at a tender age at that time, but did it ever appear to you, or did you ever got the thought of, whether or not it was something that you approve of as a person, as an individual, or did you ever start to question, whether or not this is the route that you wanted to go and stuff like
Yeah.
that, or
Like,
there
when
was
did you
never
start
that
questioning
opportunity
Christianity
to,
and all that?
who you were surrounded by?
Okay, well, yeah, I embraced it all. In fact, like a sponge, I sucked it all in. I mean, it was
Like any children, yeah.
was interesting. I mean, on a Sunday, our religious life ended after 11 o'clock because we close out a Sunday by attending church with our mother, my stepmother, but our mother at a Pentecostal church. So let me show you the whole gamut. Catholic, Church of God, and in between, well, in the evening, Baptist, that is Christian Endeavor, as well as Sunday school, and sometimes even worship. In the evenings, we go with our mother, stepmother, to a Pentecostal church. So we run the whole gamut. Now, that to me would be sowing the seeds of, some questioning, because the doctrine varies and the practice also varies.
That's what I'm saying. That don't make no sense. Or you run the whole
Exactly.
gamut. Because if you start out with Catholic and end up Pentecostal, them almost on 2 different.
That's the point. So that when you go to the Pentecostal church and you hear the criticism about Father and bowing to Mary and
Yeah.
we're counting the rosary,
And worshiping idols.
that for me was a good thing, because I begin to question certain things. But this is still at primary school. In secondary school, things become a bit different. To be honest with you, I got baptized in a Pentecostal, that is the same church as the stepmother, at about the age of 18. Now that is adulthood. What is strange about this baptism is I am not certain that I did it in order to prove or to disprove, but I went into the church, fully integrated in the church. And that was the beginning of a change as far as I'm concerned. By then, in high school, I began to focus on history, although I had told myself I wished to be a doctor. And I was studying everything to be a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor.
What kind of doctor? Because you're a doctor right now, but what kind of
Medical doctor. So I really wanted to study medicine. And the reason I wanted to study medicine was that at the time I was in high school, my dad, your grandfather, had a condition called goiter, which is the enlargement of the thyroid gland here and he was hospitalized for an operation. I thought that, of course, it would be a good idea to be a doctor.
Yeah, right.
And I was preparing for that, but somehow or the other, again, gotten sidetracked. I was hooked on history. I was hooked on history because of several things. About the age of when I was in high school or going to Jamaica became independent.
Was it 1969, right?
No, 62.
62.
That makes me, that's in my 15th year, August 6th, and by the September I would have been 15.
So you're living history.
That's it. So I remember the preparation for it, the black, green, and gold flag, and the interpretation. How many of you guys may not know it, but in 1962, while preparing for it, we were told that black represents hardship faced. Green, the land is green and the sun shines. That was the original description. Hardships they are, but the land is green and the sun shines.
Wow.
When we were preparing for independence, we had one important factor, and that is the constitution. We had to change our constitution, right? So it's no longer going to be the queen, and we are supposed to have a prime minister and the leader of the opposition and the governor general. So the last white governor general left Jamaica, Kenneth Blackburn, and he was replaced by a black governor general, Clifford Campbell.
Was he voted in, or was that Parliament put him in that position?
No, he was chosen by the prime minister. Okay. And then you have a prime minister who was of mixed ancestry. That's Alexander Bustamante.
Yes.
When Bustamante became prime minister, he was already in his 70s. So he didn't really last that long.
When you're going to run, Daddy?
Huh? Run?
For the presidency, what are you talking about?
At one time, yeah, I did contemplate politics.
You should, man.
Maybe that is one of the reasons I went into the JTA and became the president of that organization. But politically, my political tuition began it in high school, where rather than the nice Sunday school attending boy who knew his golden text, every Sunday I practiced it, and so much so that I virtually know the Bible. There was a time in Jamaica when if you were not the child of a married couple, you would not be christened.
Wow. What?
During the divine service on a Sunday. It may happen on any other day of the week except Sunday. That was up until the 1960s, right? If your parents weren't married, you were not admitted to certain schools, right? That changed during the 1970s when the bastard law of Jamaica was abolished.
What's the bastardic law? Is that
and
just a
that-
terminology or was that a real law?
That is it. That was on the statute books. And it was in the 19th century. The then British colonial government introduced in what was a local assembly in Jamaica. These were the planters.
Yeah.
Introduced a law which forbid inheritance to the offspring of a white man and a black woman. In other words, it limited the amount that of any inheritance.
Yeah, if you're mixed down.
And this was to preserve the wealth within the realm of the white population. Many people don't seem to realize in this country the type of laws which you inherited.
It's colonial based.
Which was these colonial laws, which were really to restrict the economic development and growth of the black population in Jamaica.
Wow. But
even
Daddy,
laws
Daddy,
like-
Daddy, can I?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
those
yeah, go
laws
ahead.
that were enacted to prevent the black population of Jamaica from becoming wealthy, but those
That's it.
laws were enacted when black men weren't in charge. Now black men are in charge, and those laws are still being used, or those laws are those laws been adjusted, or are those laws been
Or
made
did
so
they
that-
even have the power? Did they even have the power to change those laws?
Yeah. So
tell you
how do
what
those
now.
laws? Yeah. How does that work now? If they're passed on, or is it still? So now is it black men oppressing black men?
Here is what the situation is. We are slow to disturb those pieces of legislation which has created the order that we have. We are slow to do it. We have been doing some, but it's like pulling teeth. I tell you what, recently, a young man was captured. I think you might have seen it, cussing out the prime minister and using some of Jamaica's choice bad words.
Bad word.
I heard about that.
Yeah. I would Dre to tell us.
And the police forced him to retract and to apologize. Now, in Jamaica, you can still be arrested for using what they call indecent language.
Freedom of speech, right there.
Now, that is from those days, you know. That's
Wow.
from those days. The law about bad words. Yet we talk about freedom of speech. There are others. There are still laws on the books which speak to trespass. And I'll give you a point where several years ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, a man went on King's House lawn. King's House is the official residence of the Governor General, and picked some ackee, where he was sentenced to some 6 months in jail. Because we have a piece
With
of
some
legislation
ackee?
called the Predia. Yeah.
That's
Uh,
I never even heard about that.
Never.
So this, yeah, that would have been something. Maybe you were in college, JD.
Oh.
No, so but there are still pieces of legislation which we could well do without. There are laws on the books which outlaw the practice of what we call obia.
Yeah. Voodoo.
However, you will realize that there are few, if any, policeman would be brave enough to arrest a obia man.
No, massa.
If you understand what I mean.
Yeah. we coming for you. You know,
Exactly.
that is
I could hardly see.
now when it come to you, you turn 18, you get baptized, and you decide to, at this point in your life, you want to further yourself with education. Do you at this point in time say to yourself, I am doing this for me so I can get out of this, or I'm doing this for me so I can bring me and my family out of this?
Okay. Yes, I say that, of course, it's almost like coming out of the water. The baptismal pool was in the church. Like, almost coming out of the water, it's like, what on earth did I do?
Daddy,
And it,
I swear, man, your son in a come out of the water and say the same thing. Like, what? What? Yeah.
I think I know I willingly went in because
Yes.
it was one of those these annual crusades.
Yeah.
So I went to the church. Nobody asked me to go.
Yeah. You volunteered.
I listened and I made a decision. But you having been immersed and you get up when you come out to a greeting congregation who is glad that they, of course they have
Another
one soul
member.
for the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Almost
for
like a
me,
cult.
the following days and weeks was one of inner conflict because it didn't answer much of the questions that you asked. Even the act of being at the altar, tarrying for the Holy Ghost, I don't know what to expect. I had read about Saul's conversion and rape, and had an expectation of something like that.
Like the
Well, it
tongues
never
are
happened.
some.
So I continue to question and question and question. I begin to read, I read more. You question the pastor, question other persons, and they gave you answers which seem to be incomplete. Or so.
Uncle,
Yes.
sorry to cut you, but during that period, if I remember right, the Rastafarian movement was also a growing progression. It had Bob Marley that came.
Before Bob
I'm
Marley.
not sure if he was an idol at that time, but he was growing in popularity across the world.
Mm.
And if I remember clearly, he was somewhat rejected by Jamaica or the government at that time because of his values and things like that. But the Rastafarian movement was growing at that time. Were you ever inspired by that movement or seek to know more or anything like that during that period?
Well, the Rastafarian movement was high and
Yeah, they are high.
It was a great time. That's why I was not surprised of what happened in Jamaica in 1963, 1 year after independence. And I don't know, you must have seen online about a Rastafarian, 19-year-old Rastafarian girl who was forcibly trimmed.
Yeah, recently.
At school. Was it at school?
No. It's the recent event that you're speaking about, Uncle.
That's it. The police stopped the taxi.
Yeah, it's a recent event. I heard.
And she was detained, and while in detention, they forcibly cut her locks. And this is 2021.
2021, yeah.
Yeah.
When you realize that back in 1963, that's what they have been doing. That's what the police in Jamaica was doing. And you ask yourself the question, I mean, I have come through the period of say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, because that is what we were in the 1960s and the 70s.
Yeah.
When we were wearing so-called soul. And we identify with blackness. But I also grew up at a period of time in Jamaica when bleaching cream was still high on the market.
So nothing has really changed, Daddy.
When you look at it.
So in the 1960s, 69, when I was going to school, we buy Ambi's bleaching cream and we were ensuring that we have a lighter complexion. Even my dad, for one thing, And which is strange about it. Used to advise us boys that, of course, we are to look for a lighter colored woman. You get that? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you find mommy then. That's how you. I saw you find mommy then. All right, me get it.
So you, and again, when I look at the pattern.
Yeah.
My stepmother, my father. I look at the pattern. My grandfather and his wife.
Daddy, what did Daddy, sorry. What did what did my grandfather's father do for a living?
He was a farmer.
How far departed was he from slavery? 2 generations?
He was about 2 generations from slavery. Because in that part of Jamaica, in Middle Quarters, you had the Holland Sugar Estate.
Yeah.
And where he is living, where he was born, where your grandfather, my daddy, was born, it's not too far from Holland Estate, which means that they would have, and there's one other thing I'm researching, that they would have worked. In fact, most of the people in that general area would have worked on Holland Estate, right? Yeah. So geographically, not too distant, and in time, not too distant either.
Yeah.
But to get back to that era is that, yes, there was the civil rights movement in the United States and its impact on Jamaica, because we were hearing Martin Luther King. We were also hearing Haile Selassie, because this is the time when Haile Selassie was in his ascendancy. But this is also the time when we were hearing about Julius Nyerere. We were hearing about Kwame Nkrumah, and
Kwame Nkrumah is Ghana. Okay. A freedom fighter, right?
He became Prime Minister of Ghana in 1959, because Ghana was the first African country to become independent. That's just 3 years before Jamaica did.
1962.
Yeah, in 62. So essentially, that was a fertile period in Jamaica's history. And also what's important also is in the 1960s, there was none other than Muhammad Ali, right?
Yes.
Look like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Whether we had TV or not, and many of us in 1960s never had any, but the radio was always there, and therefore the idea about the all boxing, which featured black boxers, we are always cheering.
Yes.
Right. And so there was a growing sense, therefore, that what we achieved in 1962 was not enough. Independence only meant a flag and an anthem. There were many of us who thought
the power still remained in the same hands.
That's it. It's the same thing. Nothing happened significantly in Jamaica in the 1960s. We were still going to court and hear, hey, oh yeah, God save the Queen. Or you're getting summons, say, the Patrick Smith versus the Queen.
instead of versus the state or the parish.
So justice was being dispensed and still is in the name of the Queen. In fact, what you realize now is that the case involving Vibes Cartel, who is appealing against a decision of the Jamaican Supreme Court, is going to be heard in London.
What?
Of course, it's all these appellate decisions.
That's crazy, Daddy. That's like a person coming from another country, coming to American style taking a person off of American
That's it.
soil and then trying them in another country and say, yo, hear me, I say, no, me know, say you commit the crime in America, but we are gonna run the charges over here. With that in the
Yeah, so
father,
this
hear
is
me
a
ask a
matter of
question,
extra.
father. We're sorry to interrupt you, father. Let me ask a question real quick. Now, technology advances, you see me saying, technology I feel like has an infinite range. There's no stopping it. It's gonna keep on going in leaps and bounds as human beings advances and want more to live more comfortably. But do you as a man of history feel that human beings have not evolved in an emotional or a really a mental or character level since you've seen it through the scope of history changing so much in Jamaica?
Well, as a historian, I accept the reality that the more we advance in technology,
Yeah,
is the more we are able to unearth much of our hidden past.
true. I believe that too.
Because of our scientific and technological advance, we are able to access much of the past. For example, DNA. Study of DNA can make us really know what is what. Because of some of these things, some of what the lies that we have been told, the whitewashing of our history, for example,
Yes.
has been laid bare.
Yes,
Right? We are able now to use this technology. The other thing about it really too is that humanity advanced together. Right? Some parts of us will advance earlier, but we advance together, or we're not advancing at all. So some of the racist crap that I read about superiority of white, even Indians believe that they are better off. These things I just dismiss out of hand, because even religiously, if the white man is to think that he is made by God, or all men are created by God, and yet, despite your knowledge of that, you treat people of other race or other ethnicity as inferior, then it makes absolutely no sense and betrays their own. Simply they bear their own uneducated, because if we are all made by a one God, and if we agree that God is the source of all things and that God is all good, then how can you have emanating from one good source things which are not?
There's just no logic to the thinking.
And then absolutely none.
Exactly.
And this is the problem of the provinciality of the thinking of some people.
Does that show though, Father? Does that show that though, as human beings, that we have not advanced in our mental scape? Because racism has been going on since, like I said, Father, them use it to dilute our history. Because if you go anywhere in the world, the first thing most people think about Black people is slavery. Them don't think about the kings and queenship of the history of our past. They don't think about the beautiful land where we come from, even though there's bad history there too. You see what I'm saying? But it just
You see, the thing is really that one of the bad things on planet Earth is this thing we call nationality.
The great divider.
It's one of the biggest. Yeah, because what the hell is the United States of America?
A name they came
What the
up
hell
with.
is it's the European Union. Once we move away from nationality, because if you go back to some ancient civilization, of course you had the Persian Empire, of course you had the Roman Empire, of course you had the Zulu Empire, and you have the Empire of Ghana, Mali, Songhai, and so on, and all of these empires. But many of these were multi-ethnic empires.
Yes. Almost all of them.
Because in these empires, all of these people make a contribution to the empire. One way or the other, the Roman Empire was nothing without Greeks or without Phoenicians or whatever.
Yeah.
So
lumber, wood, clothes, all that.
What I've done is create this little entity you call United States. And you're going to build a wall to keep other people out. What is strange is that you don't build a wall to keep the raw material from coming in. Preventing your export from going out. So
I just
the
stop
United
the
States of
people.
America, the United States of America will take raw materials, bauxite from Jamaica, from Ghana, and they will take oil. They will suck oil like you're sucking juice from a straw with a straw into the United States, and then they will build. They will use these, make products, and export to these countries, but without
primary source.
the import of the raw materials.
Yeah.
And without the export.
Yeah.
What the hell is the United States? So they talk about these great transnational trading in the United. No. So we make these artificial barriers we call nations. We selectively take from these other countries, not just their raw material, minerals and so on, and their foods and their fruits. But they selectively take off the intellectual property of the people. So they take the people.
And that's where you leave that state in a lesser position, because you've taken the people that could be used to advance that state in further ahead. Now you take them and you put them to your collective, and then your collective grows, and that collective gets left behind, and now it's dragging. It's a plan.
Exactly. Look at Japan.
Yeah.
Look at Japan. Japan population is in the negative.
What do you mean in the negative? What does that mean?
So the Japanese soon will not be able to replace themselves. Their population is declining.
Yeah.
Now,
Why don't I have
same
more?
is said of the United States. The white population is not increasing.
No, it isn't.
And that's just, so we are locked in this mode, right? Now, many people have their own interpretation of that section of Genesis which spoke to
Daddy,
the conflict language. Yep.
while I was in college, a teacher, this is a white female teacher, told me this. She said sometime in the future, she say within 40 years or something like that, no person born on the planet will be a straight white person. There will be no more persons born that will be just, oh, I am all white. So with that being, that adds to what you had said. You know what I'm saying? The population is in Japan is declining, and while the population of America of white people is not rising anymore,
well,
that's going to change dynamics.
Garnet, just to add something to what you're saying, if we're talking from a logical perspective, there is no pure white in the world today.
No,
because
there's no such thing, because
we're going from the perspective where humanity is derived from Africa, that means
everybody African in some part and farm away.
So you're waiting for there are people that.
But I'm not talking about the physical. I'm talking about the mental capacity of thinking white and black, not the actual physical of thinking white and black.
I'm sure that will never change.
Yeah,
that's my point of view. But there will always be ignorant people to me.
Always.
It's got to be, I'm proud of me. That's why I'm steady moving on. Despite the hatred, I get better every song, man. It's got to be, I'm proud of me. If you don't like it, move along. Get the shaking if the bacon ain't involved, man. It's got to be, I'm proud of me. That's why I'm steady moving.